Hello, everybody, and welcome. I'm going to give everyone a minute to get logged on and settled in, and we will get started shortly. All right. Again, good afternoon, everybody. Looks like it's time for us to get started. My name is Rashida Artiega, Director of Marketing for NTC Texas, and I'm excited to welcome everybody today to our webinar. I would like to cover a few quick housekeeping items before I introduce today's presenter. First, please note that a recorded version of this webinar will be available within 24 hours of the presentation. Also, we want this to be an interactive experience, so please feel free to shoot us your questions in the chat pane throughout the course of the presentation, and we will reserve the last 10 minutes or so to address questions and comments. And so without further ado, I'm excited to welcome our speaker today, payments industry expert and Executive Vice President at CardX, Brian Price. Welcome, Brian.
Thank you, Rashida, and thanks to NTC Texas for setting up this webinar. We're excited to give the presentation. NTC Texas has been a great partner of CardX. So I'm going to go ahead and jump right into the presentation here. So this is what CardX does at a high level. We're a turnkey solution for passing on the credit card fee to the customer. With CardX, the business accepts credit cards at 0% cost. Our company, we founded back in 2013 when new rules finally allowed businesses to pass on the fee when consumers choose credit cards for convenience or for their rewards. And these rewards are a huge cost. I don't think I'm telling this group anything they don't know to the merchants, which goes up every year. It's one of the bigger line items on businesses' general ledger. So businesses really need this option. So the merchant benefits, here they are. So again, you'll hear me say this over and over, but you keep 100% of every credit card sale. True 0% cost on credit cards. You only pay the cost of debit, which is a much lower cost than credit. Part of the card brand regulations rules state that you cannot pass a fee on debit cards. So that leads me to our the next point here, point number 2. This is a turnkey solution for compliance. There's a laundry list of rules and regulations from the card brands on what you can and can't do with passing on credit card fees. We are 100% compliant with not only the card brand rules, but the individual state laws that come into play with this as well, which I'll talk about a little later here in the presentation. So no headaches for you as the merchant. And no expertise needed. We have all that covered for you in our solution. And lastly here, number 3, it's customer friendly. Again, we pass on the fee for credit cards. Customers can always choose to pay with debit as a no fee option, or a check or cash. So they're not forced to pay the credit card fee. There's always a no fee option for your customers. So from an industry perspective, this is a really big trend right now. We again started the company back in 2013, so we're very close to this. We've seen how it's grown over the last 4 or 5 years here. And so why is it a big trend? Without CardX, without our solution, merchants' costs just keep going up. Interchange for rewards cards has increased 24% since 2005. So every year without fail, interchange, some parts of interchange get raised. Merchants bear, the expense of that. And merchants can't increase their prices like that. So, profit margins, continue to shrink. And this is going to be huge in the States. And we've already seen it in Australia, where they've had this model for about a decade longer than we have here in the U.S. 42% of all merchants in Australia pass on the credit card fee, and 60% of large merchants pass on the credit card fee there. So we use that analogy. We see the U.S., if not growing in a faster pace than Australia. So let's talk a little bit about pricing and how our solution works. So let's use a $100 example. If a customer pays on a credit card, our technology knows it's a credit card. We add 3.5% to the transaction and authorize it as one transaction at $103.50. Again, that's part of the card brand rules. It has to be one transaction. So at the end of the day, you sell $100 on your credit card. We deposit $100 into your account. We collect the $3.50 before that hits your bank account. So you're truly revenue neutral, zero cost for credit cards. So take that same example with a debit card. Again, we can't pass that fee with a debit card. So the merchant pays the cost of debit cards, which for consumer cards are 1% and 25 cents. So at the end of the day, you would see $98.75 in your account on the debit card transaction. The small print here simply says if it's a commercial debit card, the cost is 3.38%. The rate, and the reason for that is the rates for the commercial debit cards are much higher than consumer debit cards. All right, so I'm going to talk about the different payment environments that we can process in, or that you can process in. So number one, card present, retail, face-to-face. So if you have merchants that are paying, in person, we have a CardX terminal. It's a great product. We launched this early in 2018. It's become our fastest growth product basically overnight. You as a merchant get everything that you need in one box. We developed it on EMV Quick Chip, which is a faster EMV transaction process. And for merchants, there's no upfront purchase cost and there's no lease. We simply charge $35 per month for the terminal, which covers the licensing, the supplies, so paper for the terminal, and ongoing support, and in addition, swaps. So if anything ever happens to the terminal where it stops working, we would replace that for you at no cost. It's a month-to-month agreement. You can send it back at any time. There's no cancellation, no penalty for the agreement. So what's in the box? So this is basically it. There's signage that's required by the card brands. So let's skip ahead a little bit here. So this is the actual signage. We need to give or the merchant needs to give a certain disclosure in order for this to meet the compliance standards from the card brands. So we simply state that we pass on a 3.5% credit card fee. Fees not more than the cost of acceptance, and there's no fee for debit cards. Also included is a getting started guide that walks you through, start to finish, how to process transaction, voids, returns, all the things that come along with a credit card terminal. And then the next solution, our second solution, is a virtual terminal. So this is browser-based. You simply, go on Safari or any of the browsers out there. We give you a username and a password, and you can simply log in and process payments. Typically, this is used more for merchant-initiated payments, so people calling in, or where the customer would not be in front of you as the merchant. And then lastly, we have a hosted payment page solution for e-commerce. And this can be used in a few different ways. The most popular is we provide a link that you embed on your website. When customers go to your website, they can click on, pay now and make a payment, through your website. So that's one. The second way is a lot of our merchant base uses this. Will use the link as a link on an invoice. So they send an invoice out either electronically or through the mail. They include the URL link to the hosted payment page, and their customer can simply click that or go on that website, our hosted payment page, which is fully PCI level 1 compliant. So you don't have to worry about, that piece of, storing credit card information or doing anything like that. We have all that covered. They can go on and make the payment for their invoice. So pretty simple. And then the last use case for the hosted payment page is we have a mobile optimized version where a merchant, if they want to use it on a tablet or a phone, it's browser based. You link you bookmark a link on your phone or your tablet, and you can make payments, mobile payments, through either one of those. So we launched a new reporting tool this year. I know this is a little small, but I'll show you a bigger slide of it as well. But basically what it covers is you get an email on a daily basis that shows the total amount of credit card sales, the total amount of debit card sales, what you saved, what we collected in credit card fees, what you paid in debit card fees, and the amount that you'll see in your bank account. And it'll give you the total savings from the day of what you saved by using CardX. And it's just a blow up of that screen, but we love this report. It was a great addition. We actually have a monthly summary roll up that goes out to our merchants as well. So try to make it as easy as possible from a reconciliation perspective. So from an availability perspective, right now we serve businesses in 45 states. When we started back in 2013, there were 40 states that could pass on the credit card fee. So we've been trending in the right direction with this. We actually were active. There's a Supreme Court case that was decided about a year and a half ago. We actually provided an amicus brief for that. We were the only solution provider to do that. It was a really big deal for us. So we've been on the forefront of, pushing the state regulatory piece of this and driving that since the beginning. So 45 states now, big victories in California and Texas earlier this year. In New York and Maine, there's an additional disclosure, which if anybody is in those states, we can talk offline about that. It's pretty simple. You just have to disclose the pricing at your whatever payment environment you're in, whether it's face-to-face, online, or verbal if someone's calling in. So pretty simple. And then the 5 states where it's not yet available are listed here: Colorado, Connecticut, Massachusetts, Oklahoma, and Kansas. We see those states probably falling in line here with the way the Supreme Court ruling went with New York, probably within the next 6 to 12 months. So definitely coming quick. So with that, Rashida, that is the end of my presentation. I'll turn it back over to you, but thanks again for having us on, and I'm happy to answer any questions that are out there.
Awesome. Yes, thank you so much, Brian. So we'll open up the floor for some questions. It looks like we have received a few. First question is for you. Once our clients learn about the fee, don't we risk them taking their business elsewhere?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And the simple answer is, the simple answer is no, but look at your processing volume, and figure out what your effective fees are and what that savings is. And typically that's a big savings. So one of the questions is, how many clients would have to leave to bridge the gap of the savings that you're going to get from utilizing the service? That's a big one to look at. And this is probably the biggest question that we get. And the other response that we give back typically is, for the merchants, we see this as being very transparent. What's the alternative? The alternative is you raise your prices. So with CardX, you're simply pointing out, being transparent, that there are credit card fees. A lot of our clients will send out notifications stating, we're not going to raise our costs, but we are going to start passing on the cost of credit card acceptance because it's a line item that just continues to grow every year. So those are a couple of rebuttals to that question.
Makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Okay. So the second question, which you pretty much already addressed in that last slide there, was how do we know if this is legal in our state? So you gave a pretty good rundown of those already, but just so everybody knows, all the attendees know, we will be sending out a copy of the recording afterwards, so you'll get all that information there.
Okay, great.
Is there anything else in terms of legalities that there is to cover, or like compliance stuff?
Well, that's a good question. From a state perspective, we continue to update as legal as things change in different states. So as more and more states come on board, for example, Maine was a state that didn't allow it, but with some changes that happened, you can do it as long as you're doing the disclosure that's required for that state. So those are the kinds of things we update. Our website is, up to date, very up to date. If you go on CardX.com, you'll see a map of the U.S. and it'll show you exactly, what's available in every single state.
Awesome. Okay. Well, that's great. We're at NTT Texas. We're really excited to be partnering with CardX. And again, thank you, Brian, for doing this presentation today. And thank you to all of our attendees for joining us. And looks like that wraps up the presentation.
Very good. Thanks, Rashida.
Thanks. Have a great day.